So the UN is warning that Gaza is staring into the abyss of a fourth destructive war in just a decade. In the last 10 years, tens of thousands of people have been wounded or maimed or killed, including hundreds of children, and that's why we say to the warring parties they have to abide by the emerging ceasefire and respect their obligations under international law to protect civilians, and longer term there has to be political effort to resolve the underlying cause of the conflict, the blockade, the rockets, the occupation. There would be international outrage about that, and yet somehow with Gaza there's very little. But in Gaza it feels as if an earthquake is striking. The buildings are shaking, the very ground that people are standing on is shaking. People say that huge munitions are flying in, and when you send huge munitions into such a densely populated part of the world, then it's almost inevitable that civilians, women, children, the elderly, the sick are going to come into harm's way, perhaps be killed. The reason why we're seeing conflict after conflict every few years in Gaza is that the underlying causes of the tensions, the occupation of Gaza, the rockets, which of course we condemn flying out of Gaza, the occupation, these things are not addressed. And while the rights and the sense of justice remain unaddressed, while 5.5 million members of the UN protected population, the Palestinian refugees, remain unaddressed, while their statelessness and their exile continues, the Middle East is condemned to be an inherently unstable place. So it's very worrying what's happening in Gaza, having for the last 10 years seen the place slowly. UNRWA's unprecedented financial crisis has seen unprecedented cuts in our services. We're struggling to maintain them, but that sense of UNRWA on the edge, one of the biggest service providers in Gaza, having to make cuts, that adds to this inherent sense of insecurity, and of course that's made worse by this alarming military build-up that we're seeing and this sense of Gaza being on the brink of another destructive round of fighting. The most severe blockades in the history of industrial relations, and of course in Gaza is a conflict zone with a fence around it. I mean, worst hit overall in UNRWA are our emergency services, so we are very worried about food, about cash for work, and of course this hits some of the most disadvantaged people, and history has shown that where some of the most disadvantaged people are hit, then instability grows, and that's the big concern as Gaza faces yet another round of fighting. Gaza is unique in the annals of contemporary warfare in being the only conflict with a fence around it. Imagine any city anywhere in the world with 2 million people in it crammed in to this area behind a fence, and imagine then this kind of destructive conflict taking place every 3 years. There would be absolute outrage and dismay internationally, and that's what we should be seeing over Gaza today. See you. Bye.